everyone, and welcome to the Real Talk Roundtable. My name is Ijoma from Medo, and I just like to have conversations. I like to crack topics. I like to go to that place that people don't want to go to. The whole essence of the Real Talk Roundtable is that I really want us to have real talks, and this is going to be our official first season, bringing my friends for us to discuss about some controversial topics. I especially chose these ones because they are very highly opinionated. They are strong opinion, and when they are talking like this, they don't used to hear. So it's good for all of us to come together since we have strong opinions. But the good thing is that we're all Christians, right? So I want us to be able to come to the table and see things from different lens, but we're still guided by the same principles. And I'm sure that somewhere in our conversations you will find yourself in and all that. But for today's conversation, we're going to be talking about social media and relationships. Now we're going to record subsequent conversations today, just what I mean today as at the point of recording, just in case you see the next conversation we're wearing the same clothes. We have other clothes, we're not repeating clothes, we just yeah, so
just have to say that.
We repeat the bottom.
We're going to be talking about social media and relationships, how the online world impacts real life relationships, the streets of Instagram and TikTok. Well, our generation here, I don't think we are TikTokers. But sorry, apologies to let's not do that. The streets of Instagram and all of it is the same way I can relate to TikTok. I think it's the same way that I can relate to Facebook, because I just feel like Facebook is, but social media as a whole, how the online world impacts real life relationships. Yeah. So jealousy, validation, the pressure to appear perfect. And I'm going to kick off with this. So I remember that I had a friend some years back, amazing lady, and she really complained to me once. She had this lady, I don't even know right now if they are still friends, but she had this lady who at that point when Instagram was blowing up, the girl was doing well, growing on social media. She had a WhatsApp group where she was on with the girl, and somehow she realized that when she chats the girl doesn't really respond to her. Then she will send broadcasts, the girl will not respond to her. But when she's on social media and she responds, the girl puts a post and she comments, the girl will respond to her. And she was just angry. She was like, Ijoma, I don't do that. She's more friendly on social media than real life. In my mind, I was like, okay, I don't have an answer to her. But I think in retrospect, I can imagine how painful it was, because this person was a rising star, so to speak, and this lady was also trying to find her food. That's number one. Number two, there's also the thing about when you see how things are, and you just want to pattern your relationships. Like I just told the story recently to somebody. Now, this is not even social media age, but it can happen. My father used to tell me a story. He said that let's call Nos A, Nos B, and Nos C. So Nos A and Nos B used to work together. And Nos B will come and say that her husband gave her like 2,000 naira, for example, for making soup. And then the Nos A person will be like, why would your husband just give you 2,000 naira? My husband gives me 200, he gives me 100, all those kind of things. And then this Nos B will go home and be quarreling with her husband. I'll be like, that my fellow people and my fellow wives get this amount of money, you're giving me this. And the husband will be like, if I have more, I'll give you now, all those things. Anyway, long story short, Nos B met another friend. Well, not a nurse, but another friend. And so the person was telling Nos B, please come and visit me. Nos B was like, I don't have time, my work. Finally, Nos B found time to go and visit her new friend. When she went to visit her new friend in a new house, as she entered the house, she was hearing shouts from the neighbor's house. She was like, who's shouting? I said, now that's how they always quarreling. The husband and the wife are always quarreling over money. So she was not hearing. Then Nos B was like, that even her husband doesn't give her a lot of money. The friend now looked at her, didn't say anything. When it was time for her to go, she now, as she was coming out of the friend's house, the other person that were calling the other house, that's when my father told me this story. the guy ran out of the house, and only for her to discover that it was that her friend. So sometimes her husband doesn't give her money for food at all. Anyway, I don't know what my father was trying to teach me with that story when I was a teenager, but that shows you what pressure is. So I'm going to give it over to you. I don't know who wants to go first. What are your thoughts about social media relationships? What are your thoughts about how the online world impacts real relationships, validation, jealousy, pressure to appear perfect? What are your thoughts? Do you have any experiences? And yeah,
I'll give it to Yola.
I think it's a myth to separate online the social media space or the digital space and the real space today. I think it's a mistake to separate it because I think it's an extension of the real world. I don't necessarily think that some of the gaps and, would I say, disadvantages of the social age that people like to mention today, like comparison, jealousy, etc., etc. I don't necessarily think social media created them. I think it did amplify them or shine a light on them. But I do think that we've always grappled with these issues on different levels. So one example that I can give that I know people that creates a lot of bad buzz is, should you show your relationships or should you do public display of affection on social media? I don't
Bring it on.
I don't necessarily think that. I think it's much ado about nothing, to be honest. Because PDA has existed since time immemorial. Even when we were kids, we knew those couples that whenever they go to weddings or their family functions, they can't get their hands off each other. They are PDA focused like that, or they are PDA friendly like that. And when it comes to social media, people really saying, oh, you don't know who's watching, evil eyes, must you show off, must you do this, must you do that. I just feel like, everybody would always have their approach to living out their relationships and showing love and demonstrating whatever means the most to them. And if social media is one of the ways that they've decided to show it, why is everyone so hung up about it? I also see people saying, when you show your relationship on social media, you open the door for people to enter. That's when, social media destroys relationships. I would say if the relationship was going to be destroyed anyway. Social media is additional stress that just comes and changes the dynamic of your relationship. The cracks in your relationship were there. They were there anyway, and they were going to show under any kind of pressure. So it's not social media that destroyed your relationship. So I think it's really much ado about nothing. But that said, I do still think that when you create boundaries for your life in general, that should extend to social media and your social media presence and how you manage relationships and connections on social media. I still think that just like you set boundaries in real life, I probably would not be telling someone what I ate yesterday. I probably would not do that. I probably would not tell someone I have a particular ailment, right? I would not be telling a random person that. So the same boundaries that I set for myself in real life is what I think should also happen on social media. I don't necessarily think that there are special rules for engaging on social media. I'm sure we'll talk more about impact on relationships and all of that. But I'll be quiet now. Pass it to Mura.
Because I was going to say, but so when we come back to it, because that part about people having the pictures of perfection online, I remember. Sorry, I'll get in. So I remember in the first 5 years of my marriage, to be very honest, and I'm not proud of this. Most of the pressures I had in my marriage came from social media, and I'm going to explain. So on social media, the husbands are extremely supportive. They are perfect. They do no wrong. They are just mighty shining armor. And I have my husband that has standards. He is very logical thinking. When I tell him my dreams, he understands my dream, but he's very logical. How can this translate to Naira and Kobo? And I want him believe in me. And he's like, I believe in you, but you're not giving me a concrete plan. It was one day I wasn't speaking to her. She was saying she's a well-known coach in Nigeria. She was now like that when she's preparing to share her dream with her husband, she has to write documents and all that. That's when I knew my husband was not different. He helped me. But I'll be like, other people are supporting. You're not doing what they're saying. And then it was then I realized that support is now. When I put it up, Now, of course, I don't know what those people meant, to be honest. I don't know what they meant by what they put, but what it came to me as was perfection. Now, I'm a great I celebrate my husband a lot, but when I put it up with a different view, because I'm like, I look at things through his eye, I look at things practical, I celebrate really the person he is. But sometimes a part of me wonders, I hope I'm not putting somebody else under pressure to think my marriage is perfect. Me, I'm not perfect. Wura, let's pass it over to you. Wura is
I think I agree with. No, I think I agree with most of what you said. But one thing that I technically disagree with, Ola, is the fact that you say social media is an extension of people's life. I think it depends on your usage and your purpose of social media. I think for the common people, we're not common anyway. I think for the normal, the rest are not abnormal. Let me find the right choice of word. Like if you're not an influencer, exactly, you're just there to just put your normal life on social media. I think it would most probably be an extension of your life. And on that basis, you share maybe highlights of things that are happening to you. And that's why people put their birthdays, things about their husband and stuff like that, the positive things happening in their life. But I think when people take on that influencer role, there's a particular standard that they need to measure up to. And there's a particular way of life they need to show people that they're living. And that's why most times they have what they do for the influencing and then the life that they live for real. And I think it is actually those people that are usually most times maybe causing a bit of people having a misconception about what normal life is. And I also think another issue is the fact that we also, the so-called normal, non-influencing rest of us, we only show the good things because, yeah, that's the part we want people to see. And for that reason as well, that's what people would measure their lives against, and not necessarily like the struggles we go through and all of that. So maybe that's why most times social media is not really a full representation, not in any case, for a normal person or for an influencing person. But I understand what you said. With everything, you need to create boundaries as well. So as a non-influencing social media user, I will also not put all information about it. Also because, yeah, whatever you put there, most probably people in your inner circle would also have access to it. And I think that's also why maybe people monitor what you put out there as well. But on the subject of whether it creates a bit of expectation and all of that, it definitely does. And I think it's majorly because what I said, you share only the good things, and it is those good things that people see, that they will always measure their lives with. And on that basis, if how do I say it? If one is not careful, you can start. How do I say it? You can start without reducing myself. You can get to the point where you measure personal relationships in your life on the basis of that. So it does cause problems, I believe so. And I also agree with what you guys said earlier about people already having issues about comparing themselves to other inferiority complex and all of that. It's not even inferiority complex in my view. It's just you see something nice happening somewhere and you want it to happen to yourself as well. It's normal human nature. So yeah, social media just magnifies it because you now see more. You see more. Before, it is what people tell you one on one that you know. Now you see 10, 5, 11 people putting the same content out there, and you be like, oh, so it's only me that have this problem. No one knowing that they also have the same problem, but they will not put that out there. People to see. So yeah, social media does magnify the problem as well because you have access to more information. You have access to more people putting such kind of content out.
more like false information, right?
Not
Because
necessarily false information. You're just highlighting what's good about your life. Nobody wants to go out there and say, oh, I did something bad today. Most people will not do that.
well, yeah,
And that's okay.
yes, I agree. But then somebody somewhere it's so for me now, I think I'm just wondering, of course we're not called to be anybody's savior, right? But somebody somewhere is going through serious mental issues that is showing off on something and they just seem to be there. So it now becomes a standard for what is going on in their life, what is good, what is not good, and all that. I mean, it becomes a standard for validation. Look at the story my father told me. That nurse A could be social media for all and then only to discover that nurse A is not even getting that much in her family.
That's also true. Yeah.
So
a lot of people do that as well. A lot of people do that.
How do you separate the one that is real from the false one? How do you give yourself peace?
But that's the problem. It comes from you personally, understanding your value, what you stand for, how to define yourself, how to define what makes you happy, how to define what brings you joy. Because at the end of the day, you can't measure that by someone else's standard. So it is true that people misrepresent what is happening to them. People can even fight with their husband right now. I've seen cases like that. That I know that these people are not in good terms, and they go online, put their husbands or their wives out there, and make it seem like all is well with the world. I even listened to one research recently where they said, sorry about this one, they said that husbands and wives, they found out that couples that actually put their relationship out there have the worst relationship issues. That research has shown that most of the time it's not going well. And I don't know where they got their data, to be honest. But I think, let me tell you something. No. I think on that one, let me even digress a bit. When it comes to showing your relationship also online, I think it also depends on the personality as well. Some people just enjoy expressing themselves, and that also reflects in how they put their information or their relationship on. And some people are more introverted, such that you will not see anything about them on social media. And for that reason, they carry that on also into their relationship. So it might be that their relationship is good, they don't share, their relationship is not going well, they don't share. And some people who are extroverted, who enjoy sharing information, will also share as well, not because something is going wrong. And that still goes to the point of you don't need to measure yourself against whatever anybody shares, because you don't know why they're sharing. You don't know the timeline of even what they're sharing. They could share a dinner date that they just had. It might have happened like a year ago. And in the last 1 year, maybe nothing has happened, So it goes to the point of one really understanding their personal priorities, their personal needs, things that bring them value personally. And on that basis, let that be your own yardstick, not necessarily what people have.
I agree with that, Laura. I'm even taking it away from romantic relationships, just about friendships and measuring your achievements with what you see other people are achieving online, like on LinkedIn, for instance. I see people blaming social media and how people use social media for other people's depression. Something like watching somebody sitting in a corner, things are not happening for the person. Don't you think the person's seeing it? And I think it's more of a personal issue. You have to sit with yourself to go through that. And I have a personal example to cite. A friend of mine who we used to be around on the same kind of level professionally, but at some point, she's, very smart, amazing, and she had some really big career wins, I would say almost unbelievable career wins. And I saw them on social media and I started to feel a certain kind of way. But sitting down with myself, sitting with it, sitting with that emotion and sitting with the feeling, I knew that it was a me problem, right? I was feeling underachieved at that time. It was a particular place in my career when I was very vulnerable. Things were we all have that season in our lives when things are not happening as fast as you want them to or as you think they should be. And you're wondering, is it me? Is it Is anybody following? Nobody. But what is the real issue? Like, oh, is God not listening to me? What is really happening? Why am I not progressing that much? And it took me owning up to myself to say, this person is not bragging. This person is not showing up. This person is not rubbing it in my face. This person is making a very innocent post and doesn't even know how it is affecting me. They're probably not doing it with me in mind. But
Exactly.
I feel some way about it because of where I am, my own current position. And that's why I always like to say that when people blame social media for something, particularly when it's negative, when people blame social media for something, you really need to go to the root and check. Most of the time, the issue is with you.
Yeah.
With or without social media, somebody would have one thing more than you. Somebody would be finer, somebody would be more intelligent, somebody would be wealthier, somebody would be healthier, people would always have something or more than you. And that's the reality of life. If you
Yeah.
can't deal with that, it's not a social media can't deal with it for you. You have
Yeah.
to deal with
Yeah.
yourself and really discipline yourself. And if social media is becoming one of your triggers, because I don't think it's your only single trigger, if you're feeling like that, if it's one of your triggers, then you need to enforce boundaries. You can log off for a while, you can mute people for a while, and this is not to say it is their problem, but it is your way of dealing with how you're feeling and the inadequacy and the comparison. It's your way of dealing with it. So you need to put those things in place and not really blame people for posting and give people heat for just being themselves and existing on social media. It's a you problem, not
Yeah. But the problem is people don't do that kind of self-reflection that you do. Most people don't do that. And I think that's the major problem. People do not really get to the root of why they feel what they feel or why they're feeling the way they're feeling. People don't do that. It's easier to like pass the blame to someone else and just move on. So it takes an higher level of maybe emotional understanding or maturity to be able to ask oneself those questions. Yeah.
Another
So
thing I think is important to mention, sorry, IJ, is knowing which conversations are for what audience, which conversations, which content. So, for instance, I see some people posting some things online. So maybe you want to talk about a particular conflict. Like somebody was talking about her mother-in-law. That her mother-in-law, she said she made a video on Facebook or Instagram, I can't remember. And she said, my mother-in-law wanted to give my 2-month-old pineapple. And I said, Mama, you can't give this baby pineapple. It was funny. People were laughing and, there were likes, there were comments. It went viral. But I told myself, and I see many of such situations, I'm like, this thing is put on social media. It's like calling 1,000 people to a village square to settle your family matter. They will and move on. Yeah, at the end of the day, you will be sat with your problem. It wouldn't solve the problem. So another thing I would say is definitely like having that level of self-introspection and awareness of what kind of conversations to have where. Definitely, even if I'm saying, oh, social media is an extension of real life. In real life, you will not call 5,000 people or 10,000 people you don't know and have never met to tell them about your mother-in-law's behavior. It's bizarre. From any angle you look at it. It's bizarre.
no, but actually some of these people don't mind, especially the ones making content. That's what they want to do.
But
And
everything is not
they're
content.
making money from everything is content for people like that too. And they're making money from the views. So they even bring up any silly or unnecessary content just to gain traction. So for them, they achieve their purpose. For you looking at it, yeah, it's not necessary for their pockets and for them, yeah.
Yeah, if their family is open to this for help.
And the interesting thing is some of those stories might not even be true.
If their family can be commercialized,
Most of them do. They commercialize their family, and some of the contents are actually even false at times. They just look for the stories that will create some kind of sensation, and then they make up those stories. As long as I don't see a video, most times I don't believe all those posts that it's true. Most
See,
of them
even
are
with
not true.
video, Wura, even with video, there is one that I watched a year or two ago. The man came and they said, "See what the woman I brought to UK did to me." The woman was shouting, "Leave the house, leave the house, leave the house." That was content. He was fake.
I think I remember that
He
story.
was
It
fake.
was,
What is that?
yeah,
And
I
also,
remember that
he
one.
not carried one. In fact, when he lifted the box, it was empty. You know how you lift a box and there's not that one food. It was like just for content. Come on. Ah, no, no, no. No, 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 no. But then
And I think it's linked to, sorry, it's linked to what I wanted to point out earlier. The fact that social media has now been commercialized in such a way that people can do those things, get views, get even sponsorship. There's some content that I'm like, why are these people getting sponsorship? Based on what? But apparently, there's some people those things appeal to. I think on that basis, for that reason, that's why we see a lot of all those like unusual contents coming out. People creating stories about things that don't exist, trying to set certain expectations, all because they are chasing the money back. That's the honest truth.
But the danger now is that, yes, leaning into what was said earlier, what Ola said about it, now the onus sits on you to sift what you're listening to and decide for yourself. But the thing about that is that there's now a shift in social media, there's a shift in content, and we're now unconsciously making as normal what should not be normal at all. This lady that post about mother-in-law, somebody else is going to think it's okay, and because you were a validation driven generation, somebody else will go and do their own mother, and they won't just know where the boundaries are.
As you're recording this video, like,
It's be coming with this question, and of course we can still share. But so with the pressure to appear perfect online, or in this case to draw pity online, because there are also situations where people want to have pity, how can individuals and couples set boundaries to protect their minds? How do you think people can set boundaries to protect their minds from the whole, effect? Of course, you've already said one, but yeah, that requires a high level of emotional maturity. But and you've said something about signing off, muting, and the rest. But we can blame all we want to blame on social media, but my pastor says something. He says he put coke inside bottle and they shook the coke. The bottle exploded. Coke said no, it's because they shook the coke. Coke was like, no, it's because they shook the bottle. They put the thing inside plastic, shook, exploded. Coke says it's because they shook it, it's not me. They say, okay, they told Coke, wait, now put water inside bottle. They shook, nothing happened. They put the bottle inside water inside plastic, shook, nothing. I say, Coke, see, it's you. That is the thing with social media, because there are people who are balling, whose lives are normal, who are just feel okay. What other ways besides just sitting with ourselves can we really identify and just stop this thing? Because social media is now becoming a standard of what life should be like, when it should be the word of God. It's now becoming where we draw our validation from instead of from the feet of Jesus. It's now becoming our source of hope or loss of hope instead of from and the shift is so subtle that sometimes people don't even know till they are right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think for me, it's still linked to the boundary thing, because I can use myself as an example. I realized that at some point, my source of news was, sad to acknowledge, just tabloid. And at times
What do you say? Instagram?
Instablog, when this so-called gossip, because I think it's a gossip platform, when they push news out there, they change the narrative in a way that it's going to create a kind of sensation. They don't tell the story as it is most times. And then I take that news, I go and talk to my husband about it and say, did you actually read it from a proper news source? Because this thing you are saying is not. And at some point, I had to also check myself, because one thing I eventually did was to unsubscribe from all this blogs and the rest of them. And one thing about social media is even when you avoid this thing, because the people you're connected to view them, you will see them. So for that reason, I also do not check my explore. My explore page, I have no business being there because it is things that people are seeing that I probably do not want to see. And I think one thing that is maybe easy to do is once you start choosing the people you follow, the the kind of things that you would also come to your timeline would also be based on what you do. And at some point it will be corrected. And what I do most times is when I see something that is not relevant for me, immediately I go and indicate this is relevant. Thank God that option is there. You don't want to see it again. And I think that's one check that people really, it's something you need to do all the time, to check yourself when you start seeing things that, just like Ola said, if you start seeing things that make you question certain things about yourself, tell yourself the truth. Going back to the personal responsibility, I think one also, that's a larger topic anyway, one needs to look at different areas one's life, define what you want in those spaces, your goals, and also understand where you have the resources you have, what you're doing, and let that be your yardstick. The only person you should be competing against is the person you were yesterday, not to anybody outside of yourself. And I think once people start taking personal responsibility for how they feel about things, how they perceive things, things will start to change. Because you would even see those things at some point and just be like, okay, back pass, which one is my business? So it takes a long time to get to that point, but it's a growth path one needs to choose. That's what I think. Sha.
Yeah, Wura has said it all. Just not to repeat most of what she said. I also think an additional thing is having a conscious and intentional conversation with your family, your spouse, your friends on how you use social media. I think it should be a topic of conversation, especially for people that are dating or getting married or already married. So I've heard about situations where some spouses felt slighted because their husband or their fiance did not post them on social media on their birthday, or did not make a post about anniversary, or did not make a post on Valentine's Day. So understanding and having that conversation about the role that social media plays in your relationship. Are you both agreeing that it is important for you to celebrate each other on social media, if that's your thing? Putting that out there and saying, this is my expectation. I think it's important to do that so that people don't read or misread situations. I've also seen it's a trend these days for people, especially celebrities and influencers, when they're getting married, they'll put their spouse's picture and then block the face of the spouse.
I saw one thing like that recently, and somebody put it there that is EFCC looking for the man. Is that why?
I posted that on my Twitter. So I find that interesting. It can almost even be a topic of research. While somebody feels the need to post a whole human being and then block their face. Some people do it for children nowadays. Like when they have babies and they close the child's face. I'm like, don't post. We will not flog you. So also realizing, that it's actually the power is in your hands.
Yeah.
What goes on there and what doesn't make it. Like nobody will beat you. Are an adult. Nobody will beat you. Nobody will, hold you to ransom for posting or not posting. So if you're not posting, don't post. Like it's that simple. So just really taking hold of that power and also using the tools on the internet. Mura has mentioned some of them. You can mute people, you can block people, you can make your page private. There's so many things you can do to curate your experience on social media. So rather than complain, use those tools and make them work for you. Yeah.
I Well, thank you for this. Though I was going to say, and because this is real talk, I was going to say that one about child I think I understand them because they want to show that they have picture. But yeah, there was something that was going on at some point about how that people can use random pictures for AI. I don't know if that thing is true, but they can mix, different pictures. And I think that is why some people started becoming uncomfortable with it, because sometimes when I tell my chat GPT to create images for me, it just used to amaze me how it creates images. I'm very sure that person's picture exists somewhere. I'm just wondering how it's able to create, so I think maybe that's, well, there could be other reasons, but for me, I think that's why somebody might want to hide, because somebody actually came out on YouTube and said hide your children's pictures till they're old enough, because what the AI might do is to steal this and try and maybe take an innocent child's face. And I don't know if those things are true, but I think that might be the reason some people.
I agree fully with that.
Ola says you should not post at all. If you're worried about that, then don't post.
Post if you're worried about it, to be honest. I then question, so why are you showing us the hands and legs? Like, are you convincing us that it's real? Like the child is real? Why do you feel the need to do that? Like we are not.
It looks like you want to beat. What does this matter?
The violence.
So part of the bad value you can take away with a lot of amazing things that has been shared is that if social media is peppering you, first of all, sit with yourself. But before you sit with yourself, tune up first. But sit with yourself. I think one thing about the real talk is that we just want to bring issues to the fore. And like I said, you might not always agree with everything, but a lot of times it still points back to us. In our next edition, we're going to talk about the real cost of love. I'm really looking forward to this because I've had a conversation with these two amazing ladies on this thing before. And Wura, in fact, Wura is going to start off that segment. And like I said, I'm telling you, if you see us wearing the same dress, please, may we have other people. On our next section, we're going to talk about whether love is enough and just how much personal sacrifices, the impact of personal sacrifices for love. Like, how much is enough? What is the boundary you should not cross? In this age of, we say things like your marriage is worth fighting for, just how much fight should you put into it so that at the end of the day, you'll not be the corpse that will carry out. And corpse doesn't need to be a dead person. It could be someone who is gone mentally, emotionally, or and just so you understand, we are Christians and we're not advocating for any worldly standards. All right, guys, ladies, see us in the next session. It's going to come up in a week from when you're saying this. Bye bye. Thank you.